Hello, welcome to a brand new Jack and Joe show. Last night did not exist, Joe Sansom. We're going to talk Saturday's win against Brentford and Saturday's Wednesday's preview for Saturday's game against Arsenal. How are you?
Yeah, really good. As you say, last night it didn't happen. Just erase it from the memory, and let's think back to Saturday, which was amazing, and we were looking forward to talk about it, regardless of this apparent game with Crawley that might have happened. It was the biggest game of our season so far. I know we're only 3 games in, but we would have said this even if we were halfway through the season, as long as we hadn't played Chelsea yet. It was a game that everyone was really up for, and let's face it, bar the playoff final, we have not had fun against Brentford over the last few years. So it was great to get one up on them. But even from a purely Premier League perspective, just a massive 3 points, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah, it was sensational. And because it's Wednesday, the hype has sort of calmed down from it, and it doesn't help that we've also had another game in between. But let's reminisce on Saturday, a magical game of football where I described it to some friends as the pure footballing roller coaster of emotions, elation to deflation, and back to elation at the end. Fortunately for us, let's unpick the game as you saw it. Who was your standouts? Who were you really impressed with? And then we could talk through the 90th minute Lindsay Lohans.
Yeah, super impressed by our midfield in this one. Really impressed by Pereira in particular. I just thought from minute 1 to minute 90, they ran the show, and there was a spell in the second half where I think Brentford gained a bit of impetus and gotten a bit of control of the match overall. But I don't think our midfield were ever defeated, and Brentford have got a very strong midfield. Norgard, red card, possibly whatever aside, is a very good defensive midfielder, and he can just take games by the scruff of the neck. De Silva's been in fantastic form. And, players like Jensen as well have also got quite a lot of quality. But Palhinha and Pereira and Harrison Reed, we mustn't forget. I feel like he always goes slightly under the radar because he's not a new signing. The 3 of them between them showed so much energy, and they drove us forward from that first attack where Pereira picked up the loose pass from a poor Pontus Jansson pass. We drove forward and scored the first goal, to Palhinha's header. There were so many blocks and just picking up interceptions all over the place, and it was just great to see. And the midfield in the Premier League wins you games. We haven't had many goals from midfield, but we had an assist from Pereira, a goal from Palhinha, which was great to see. And I really think that's what won us the game on the day against Brentford. And that first half goal that we conceded aside, I think if you take that one tiny mistake from us, which obviously it's quite a major mistake, but if you take that away, it was the perfect half. We were in control and we really dominated from minute 1 to minute 45. And it's not what I was expecting, because I was expecting Brentford to have a really fast start against us, but it was the opposite. We started the same way we did against Liverpool. And if you remember that Liverpool game, Jack, we picked off a loose pass from possibly Matip about 30 seconds in, and Mitrovic drove into the box and shot wide. And it gave everyone a lift because we were like, look, they do make mistakes. They're human. We can do this. And I felt like it was that against Brentford, but we scored, which made it so much better. And the atmosphere improved tenfold. Everyone was up for it on the pitch, off the pitch. And we just went on from there.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because it was also almost the same with the Brentford game, because within the first 20 seconds, although we scored after 45 seconds, they were in our half and actually mounting somewhat of an attack. It then broke down, to which we broke and scored from. And, it wasn't the nicest goal you'll ever see in the world, but to score after 45 seconds against your rivals in the Premier League was just an incredible start. And is there a case to say, there's 2 points to this, is there a case to say that we're going to make Craven Cottage a place where we're going to try and hit teams early, like we saw against Liverpool and Brentford, like you said, and really try and suffocate them from an early stage? And also, 2 home games so far. Is this relevant? I'm not sure. No clappers, and the atmosphere is way better, and the performance itself as well, especially in the first half of both of those games, were fantastic. So do you think the clappers could play some sort of part in this?
Yeah, definitely plays a role. I mean, I think that there's a few things. I think one of them is just the fact that when we start games so well, the atmosphere improves. I think another factor is the bottom of the Riverside being open, just because there's more fans on that. Well, there are fans on that side, which improves the acoustics. I just do think the fans have been on it. There's been a lot more noise. It's been a bit like it was for the Luton game, potentially the Preston game as well, although I thought the Luton game was obviously a lot better atmosphere-wise. And it just felt like we're treating it like big games, and that's what they have been. And, it's easy to get up for the first game of the season against Liverpool. It's easy to get up for a game against your local rivals. So I really hope that continues for a midweek game against Brighton, for example, where it's still just as big a game, but it doesn't have the underlying storylines or anything like that, or the big pressure, even though I think it should. But the atmosphere has been great, and it's definitely pushed us on. Although if the Clappers come back, I think there'd be a lot of angry people now, because
there's no way.
I don't see how they could bring them back. I think they should be gone, and that should be it.
There's no way back for the Clappers now. Definitely not. Jay Stansfield started, rose some eyebrows in the Golden Lion when team news dropped, and I think he did very well. And he played a part in the first goal. He did really well, especially in the first half, I thought. And there is talks now of Clivert breaking down. We have no Cabano as of last week. Wilson, Solomon out. We don't have any wingers. Last night's performance was shocking. And to go from a big high from Saturday into sort of a medium rare low of last night. Are you concerned about that position? And I don't really know what's happening with the Clivert deal. I know we're sort of skipping ahead here, but talk to me about that one.
Well, yeah, you raise a great point, because if you look at the team against Brentford, and then last night there was 10 changes, and Stansfield was the only player that started last night, and correct me if I'm wrong, played the full 90, I believe.
I left very early.
Oh, you left?
I couldn't tell you.
I think he did. I might be wrong, so feel free to correct in the comments. But if not, he played the majority of the game at least. I wasn't there. I was one of the lucky ones that didn't get a ticket in time, and blessing in disguise. But anyway, it shows the lack of depth we have, and I think that's the main thing from last night. I'm not bothered about going out of the cup to Crawley. Is it a bit embarrassing? Yeah, it is. Look, let's face it, it is a bit embarrassing. But I'm more concerned about the general way we move forward now with our squad depth, because there was a lot of players last night that don't look capable of filling in when the big hitters are out. If we lose Polinia, then we need to play Nathaniel Chalobah or Tom Cairney. And Tom Cairney, I think, is a good player, but I don't think he's anywhere near the same profile. So you'd need to put Harrison Reed in a slightly more defensive role than he already is, and have Cairney next to him, but the defensive stability is not there. Chalobah is obviously far lower in quality. Joe Bryan doesn't look anywhere near capable of filling in for Anthony Robinson. And the young guys, they're doing all they can, but they're young players. We can't be relying on them. As it stands right now, Stansfield starts at Arsenal. Make no doubt about it, on the right wing, because we have nobody else. We have no one else. We had to play Marlon Fossey, a right wing. There is time. We're going to be going on a deadline day live stream next week, obviously, Jack, and it's going to be really exciting, because I think we'll be bringing in a few players. I think that we need at least one winger. We don't know if that will be Clivert. We don't know if that will be someone completely new. Josh Bowler was linked very briefly a couple of days ago by The Sun. We need another midfielder. I think that's plain to see. And I know that Marco Silva called that out in a press conference. You just can't go from midfield three of Harrison Reed, João Palhinha, and Andreas Pereira to, let's face it, if you get an injury, Nathaniel Chalobah or Tom Cairney or, who else? Tyrese Francois. It's just not good enough for this level. And that's no disrespect to the players. Marco Silva's just making do with what he has. But I reckon that we'll also get a left back. And I reckon we'll also get a striker. And, we can talk about it more on the stream next week, because I doubt anything will happen before then. But Neil Maupay's been linked. That one could happen. There's work to be done for this squad. And I think that's the main takeaway from last night. I don't want to bash any of the players. You might want to do more because you were there.
I'm furious. I actually am a little bit furious. I woke up this morning and I just felt extremely embarrassed in the manner in which we lost that game. I don't remember us having a shot on target. That Cairney corner that's been circulating, I think I've already left the ground by then. I'd actually had enough. It was all going so well when we were singing the Paulinho Tequila song. Then they took the lead and we never really got a sniff. And what I'm really concerned was the performance of Shane Duffy and Issa Diop. Now, if they're our backup to what is, Tim Ream, who, a lot of people have said we can't start in the Premier League. Well, so far he's done a fine job. And Tosin Adarabioyo, they have to up their game completely. I thought Diop was nothing short of a bit of a disgrace. And actually, a very good friend of mine who supports West Ham texted me and he said, I'm sorry about the result. And I said, well, Issa Diop was absolutely terrible. And he said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully he'll get better. But yeah, I wasn't happy. I thought there was no goal threat whatsoever from Fulham. We looked largely very, very poor. And it was an evening to forget. Yeah, pretty annoyed at the way in which Marco Silva said that he wants to take the cup seriously. And I completely believe him. I don't think he was putting out a team that couldn't beat Crawley. I think they were capable. Just didn't turn up on the night and we weren't good enough. And I thought Joe Bryan as well was absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. So yeah, let's move on from that. We're out of the cup. We've got the FA Cup to go. So we're in. Is there something you wanted to say?
I was only going to say one thing, which was I agree with your point about sort of the team selection. My problem was more with the bench. It was great to see all the youngsters involved, but it would have been nice to have someone on there. But then I'm thinking to myself, and I'm thinking, we have Arsenal on Saturday, which we'll talk about in a second. We have no squad depth. Can he afford to risk anyone?
No.
And I don't know if he can really, because, another injury and we're in even deeper trouble. Let's keep it positive because we're 7th in the Premier League. It's been a great start and we're playing Arsenal and the players from last night will not be involved on the most part. So what would your team be for the Arsenal game? I'm guessing we're looking at pretty much unchanged since Brentford, if not unchanged. And what are you thinking about score prediction? Because we mustn't forget, I know it's only been 3 games. Arsenal are top of the league. They've won all 3 games and they look very good. Not the best opposition they've come up against. We have to point that out. And I keep pointing that out. But a very, very, very good start from them. And they look good going forward and defensively. Yeah,
it's their first real big test of the season, isn't it, against Fulham, Arsenal. In terms of a team, it'd be nice to see Bernd Leno play against his former team in Arsenal, obviously, in goal. I might go with starting Kevin Mbabu. I thought he was brilliant when he came on against Brentford. And we must talk about that match winner. We'll do that in a second because it would be an elephant in the room if we hadn't talked about it. We got Mbabu and we got Tosin, Ream, Robinson on the left, Paulinho, Reed, Pereira, Reed, Bobby Deagle, Reed, Mitrovic, and Cabano or Stansford was back. So yeah, I don't think I would change much. And I was thinking, maybe last night would give us an opportunity to see if maybe Tom Kenny could start a game at Arsenal. No, Joe Bryan, no, Diop, Duffy, hell no. And I know that's harsh, but they really didn't look match fit at all, especially Issa Diop, who obviously had no preseason whatsoever. And Duffy's done okay in spells when coming on. Off the bench on Saturday in previous games. But I don't want to go hard on a new player, Issa Diop, but I just wasn't impressed with his attitude more than anything, and especially for that second goal. He was walking around the box, and that doesn't impress me, and didn't impress anyone in the stands either. What about you? What would be your team for Arsenal?
Probably unchanged unless Cabano's back, and that's not to be harsh on Stansfield. It's more just managing his minutes. He's very young. He got tired very quickly against Brentford, as you would playing your first Premier League game. And probably after his massive run back to block the shot from, I think it was Rico Henry potentially on their left wing. I wouldn't start Mbabu. I would start Tete, and the reason for that is the defensive side of the game. He's going to be going up against some fantastic players on Arsenal's left-hand side. It's probably going to be Zinchenko and Martinelli. That's going to be very tough to defend against. And Tete's been great defensively, so I wouldn't drop him. I do think it's a case with Mbabu of he's the more attacking fullback and, peach of a cross for Mitrovic. Didn't see how he got on last night because I wasn't there.
I forgot he played last night.
But I haven't heard many people call him out specifically, which I don't know if is good or bad at this point because it just sounded like everyone was bad. But moving on, I think that Mbabu is a sort of player that you'd bring on like we did against Brentford if you need a goal. Let's say we're 1-0 down, or we're trying to chase a consolation goal, something like that, where you need a goal. I think he's the one to bring on because we don't have many attacking options on the bench at the moment because of our squad depth. So if you can upgrade a more defensive player into an attacking one, that's almost the best we can do. But I'd start with Tete because I feel like defensively he's far superior. In terms of the score, I've been so impressed with us, and I don't want to, be negative. I do think we're going to lose this one, but I don't think that's a disgrace. And I want to make that very clear. I don't want to be seen as really, really negative. I do think we're going to lose. I think that the way they're playing going forward is going to be too much for us to handle. When Brentford turned it on starting the second half, I think we struggled defensively. I do think we'll give them a game. I do hope that we'll give them their hardest game of the season so far. And I do think we'll get a goal against them. But the way I see it right now is that I think it will be an Arsenal 2-1 win. And I'm just being honest with that. I would love to say that we'll get a result. And I do think we have a chance. What do you think, Jack?
I was going to say exactly the same. 2-1. I think I know who's going to score our goal. It's going to be João Palhinha. I can just see him hitting one, and it's going to come off the post and go in. And we might take the lead. It might be to equalise. It might be a consolation. It's sad because I want to go the whole season unbeaten, but it's just unrealistic. We're not Silver's Invincibles. It just it sounds nice, but I think this is the first game. Well, obviously Liverpool was difficult, but this is the first game we go away from home to a top 6 team. Bear in mind they're on 9 points from a possible 9. Playing some great stuff. Their performance against Bournemouth, albeit Bournemouth were absolutely terrible, they were really good. Gabriel Jesus with the first goal, incredible movement. And Arsenal have got a real way about them at the moment, which I think the whole Premier League should probably fear. It would be no disgrace to lose to this Arsenal team. But last time we went there, we gave them a game and we should have probably got 3 points if it wasn't for Ruben Loftus-Cheek and his absolute antics. And then they scored with, was it Nketiah in the 97th minute was that the day of the Super League? I remember that.
It was
quite a famous day. Joe, before we go, we haven't talked about the winner. We haven't talked
about it.
Where were you? Obviously, I know where you were. You're in the stand, but let's talk about the context of the game because we're 2-0 up. They get the goal just for half time. I think the mood changed inside the ground. I personally felt that we weren't going to win the game, and at 2-2, obviously they had the VAR situation overturned. That was a big old relief. That's the first time we've experienced that sort of thing ever. I think, especially being there in a crowd, but. Then they got the 2-2 goal, and if all honesty, I thought they were going to go on and win it. They looked the more likely team, but Mitrovic had that header at the back post, which was saved by Raya, and suddenly Harrison Reed gets the ball. He plays it to Mbabu, where I'm thinking drive down the line and get the ball in, and he goes for the early cross, and oh my goodness, the limbs in the house of end were nothing I've ever even experienced. If given the context of the goal and who we're playing against and what it meant. Joe, what was your experience? I saw you briefly after the game. We couldn't quite have a proper conversation, but it was a special moment for Fulham.
Oh, it really was. And as you say, it was the early cross. It sort of caught me out, and I think it caught Brentford out because of who was marking or trying to mark Mitrovic. It was Mbuemo, which is just horrendous from their point of view. But it was one of those where I sit in H7, the goal is to the left of my view. So it went into the far corner from where I'm looking.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as it left its head, you could just tell, even though the view's a bit distorted, that it's going into the bottom corner. But when it bulged in there, it was just unbelievable. It was just one of those where, like you, I didn't think it was going to quite be our day with the way the second half had gone. I thought it was going to be when the first Tony goal was ruled out. I thought that's a bit of a slice of luck you need. Once they equalised, I, like you, thought if anyone was going to go on and win it, it was going to be them just because of the way the momentum had swung. But the Kearney and Mbabu substitutions changed the game in our favour, and fair play to them and Marco Silva. And Mbabu's crossing was fantastic. And the header from Mitrovic, it is top class because Raya is on that side of the goal in terms of when he dives, it has to be in the very, very bottom corner for it to beat him because otherwise he's got it covered easy. Just so clinical. And, if we can target Arsenal like that, then we're in with a chance because I do think of their back post and I think of Ben White on one side and Zinchenko on the other. Neither are the tallest. I do think we can get at them. And, the same way that Mitrovic targeted Trent in game week 1, he targeted basically just not their centre halves in game week 3. And I think if we do that, we're in with another chance. But a really famous goal. I think we'll always remember that one. And it was good because Brentford always seem to do something to us in the last minute, don't they? There was Jota in the last minute. There was Maupay in the last minute. Hopefully it will be Maupay in the last minute at the G-Tech Stadium when we go there for Fulham. G-Tech Stadium is Brentford's new name for anyone that doesn't know. Yeah, but amazing moment, amazing goal, and that's what I want to take away now. And I reckon we should leave on a positive note and take this positivity onto Arsenal.
Yeah, and I suppose the deadline day stream, which is the Thursday, so you'll see us in 8 days, will basically be transfer, obviously, orientated, but we'll definitely touch on the Arsenal game, of course. So it's a shame because obviously
just thinking, Jack,
the hype
we've got Brighton as well, don't we?
Oh yeah,
before
of course.
Then.
So
it's one of those we can't even really preview because we don't know what the team news will be. We don't know what's happening in the Arsenal game. We don't know what's happening with Brighton. But what I will say is that's going to be a very, very tough game. And one that at this moment in time, I would probably take a point because of the way they're playing.
Yeah, I was at the London Stadium on Sunday and Brighton were, mate, they're just fantastic. The way in which they played around and their second goal was fantastic. And losing Basuma, I was worried for them. But even with Welbeck up front, they play those long balls over him to chase. It just causes problems. That's how the penalty came about. They won the ball in midfield. They won the ball, in their own half. And they countered McAllister and Trossard. They're problem players, and I really like the way in which they're going about things. So we'll see you next week. Joe, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Nothing. I would say try and not get too down about the Crawley result. Obviously,
it's too late.
I don't want you to think, oh, look at this dickhead. You know, he wasn't even there. Because obviously I was annoyed about it as well, even though I wasn't there. But what I will say is be annoyed at the individual game all you like, but let's not forget like all the work that's been done prior to this and, you know, the great start of the season we've had. If that was our first team, you know, last night, we would have beaten Crawley heavily just because of the quality that we've got. It's very disappointing. And I'm very sorry to anyone that went because it sounded like a complete waste of your time and money going there and being humbled. So sorry, Jack Kelly, that you had to go. But what I would say is that let's try and stay positive for the Arsenal game because we're the underdogs and we need to, you know, turn up in the crowd and on the pitch.
Yeah. I did say to you off air, it felt more like a Papa John's trophy game than it did a Carabao Cup game. And that's disappointing to see. There is one positive, though, from Crawley away, and that is the pie. The pie slaps. It actually hit different. It was unbelievable. And it was, we had to queue up. Well, we queued up. We said, oh, can we get a steak and ale pie? And they said, there's just we've run out. There's a few coming in the oven, just from the oven, just a few minutes. So we waited around and, man, they were absolutely sensational. And the company that provide the pies is Piglets, who actually are quite a well-known pie distributor around the UK. And I've heard I think they were on the Price of Football podcast a few weeks ago. I think they started at Brighton and now they're because they're so popular, they've made their way around the country. And it was sensational. And then I left it about 70 minutes because I just had enough. It was pretty poor.
Doesn't sound like you missed anything, in fairness.
Well, no. We missed the pitch invasion, of course, the Crawley pitch invasion.
Yeah.
I mean, that is utterly pathetic. EFL had to put out a statement today. And given the nonsense that happened last season with pitch invasions, not Fulham related, why on earth they're pitch invading round 2, winning against a Fulham C team is utterly farcical. But
you know why it is, Jack? It's because we're a big club.
We're just a massive club, yeah.
We're a big club, a big scout.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to be live, I think, from 9 o'clock on deadline day, going probably right up to the deadline. I'm not too sure. We haven't quite got that confirmed yet. But I would imagine it's going to be pretty exciting because we do need some deals over the line, Joe. Yeah. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure, Jack. Thanks, everyone. And if you're going to the Emirates, then hopefully you enjoy the day and maybe see you there.
Yeah. Enjoy the Emirates Stadium. Enjoy Arsenal away. And let's hope for same of Wolves away, a 0-0 draw, but no missed penalty this time.
Yeah.
Come on, Fulham.